Making a grand entrance at the dark gold arena, the duel between Li Yun Xiao and Zhou Yushan commences. What follows is blatant extortion, a one-sided beatdown, and utter humiliation for the Zhou family. A martial grandmaster of the emotion-severing mountain tries to intervene, only to lose his life in the process. Some more thievery later, Yun Xiao arrives at the Alchemist Association, where he is about to take on 3/4 tier refiners in a handicap battle. Yun Xiao, doing his signature nonchalant stretches, asks the 3/4 tier refiners how they should compete, not caring whether it is pill or artifact refining, purification, array formation, or even material decomposition. Xinzi and Gu Xian are speechless, while Lu Haochu labels the reincarnated soul as arrogant, conceited, and self-assured. The old git is left wondering if Yun Xiao is really foolish enough to believe that he can take on 3/4 tier refiners by himself. When no one says anything, the boy suggests that they refine something very simple, an item that he has grown quite fond of recently: primordial stones. Lore dump time yet again. Although refining primordial stones isn't difficult, since it is basically purification and can be done by any refiner, is the best way to test one's abilities. After all, not only does this task evaluate the refiner's ability to decompose materials and control the loss of primordial energy, but it also puts the strength of their spirit power to the test. The 3/4 tier refiners aren't on board, thinking that Yun Xiao is up to no good and will sneakily put out a powerful formation artifact. However, the boy announces that no formations will be allowed, ensuring fairness, since pure spirit power will be used for refining. Xinzi, Lu Haochu, and Gu Xian are all left in disbelief, as this arrangement guarantees a genuine refining test with no room for luck. They are still skeptical, but the possibility of winning such a huge sum of money suppresses all their doubts. Ecstatically initiating the duel, Xinzi asks Bai Li Gongjin to be the unfair witness and provide 4 primordial stones, all of the same quality. The 6th-tier refiner accepts and brings out a big chunk of primordial stone, cutting it into 4 equal cuticle pieces in order to ensure fairness. He asks the competitors to inspect the materials just in case they have any doubts, getting told by the 3/4 tier refiners that there's no need for such a thing. After all, the respected Master Bailey arranged them. However, Yun Xiao seems to have a problem. It's always something with this dude. Flicking away 2 of the pieces, the reincarnated soul announces that they don't need that many primordial stones. Since it's him versus the trio of 4th-tier refiners, they only need 2 pieces of primordial stones for the competition, 1 for each party. Hearing this absurd statement, all the refiners present let out a collective gasp. Qionghua screams out, questioning if Yun Xiao really intends to refine 1 piece alone, while his opponents refine 1 together. The reincarnated soul nonchalantly doubles down, insisting that there would be no point in a 1-on-3 match otherwise. Hearing this, Xinzi, Gu Xian, and Lu Haochu stare at Yun Xiao in disgust, declaring that there should be a limit to how condescending he can be. Duan Yue is annoyed as well, wondering why any sane person would choose to make a bet worth 150 million difficult for themselves. Not knowing crap about refining, Xin Pi praises Yun Xiao's boldness. Realizing that the martial emperor doesn't understand the implications of the boy's words, Bai Li Gongjin informs him that refining primordial stones is a unique process. If they were crafting anything else, even 3/4 tier refiners working together wouldn't be able to create a 5th tier item. However, their spirit powers and comprehension will fuse when they are refining primordial stones, culminating in results that rival a 5th tier refiner. These panels gonna make Toei copyright strike us. Right then, Yun Xiao announces that he is starting the process, all the while provoking his opponents. Taking a step back, the reincarnated soul assumes a strange stance, almost as if he were dancing. Bai Li Gongjin looks on in awe, as Yun Xiao starts spinning around like a tornado, seemingly multiplying. His hands begin to poke and prod the primordial stone piece. The 6th-tier refiner screams out upon witnessing this scene, recognizing it as the basic refining technique. 12 forms of falling snow. Acting as the spokesperson for the people, Duan Yue questions what that is, prompting Duan Yue to reveal that there were only 36 forms in the basic refining technique just 60 years ago. However, the extremely talented Gu Feiyang created 12 new forms, causing heated debates in the refining community. After 20 years, though, the basic refining techniques ended up getting expanded to 48 in total. Noticing Yun Xiao's violent and disharmonious movements, Yuan Yue wonders why they have a nice name like the 12 forms of falling snow. Turns out, when Gu Feiyang created the 12 new forms, he also found their movements to be ugly. However, even after months of trying, Gu Feiyang couldn't make them more elegant. In the end, he gave up and decided to compensate for them with a beautiful name instead. Hearing the explanation, Duan Yue realizes that the 9th-tier refiner is just as whimsical as Li Yun Xiao. I wonder why. Such a mystery. Meanwhile, Bai Li Gongjin reveals that only 4th-tier refiners or above can even attempt to comprehend the 12 forms of falling snow, let alone unleash their full power. As such, Yun Xiao must have spent several decades trying to master them. But wait, that doesn't make any sense. After all, he's a 15-year-old teenager who was a 3rd-tier refiner just a few months ago. Getting tired of waiting around, Lu Haochu jumps in and starts the refining process. He tries to one-up Yun Xiao by using the 12 forms of falling snow as well, only to end up struggling. While Yuan Hao expresses disappointment in his progress, the reincarnated soul's primordial stone advances to the low tier. Realizing his current situation, Lu Haochu exerts himself beyond his capabilities. Understanding that the 12 forms of falling snow are rapidly draining his ally's energy, while Yun Xiao is handling them quite casually, Xinzi worries about what will happen when Gu Qian takes over. At the same time, Lu Haochu forces the primordial stone to advance to the middle tier, coughing out blood in the process. Meanwhile, Yun Xiao's primordial stone continues to progress, without suffering any damage or loss of soul qi. For comparison, during its progression, Lu Haochu's primordial stone lost a huge amount of yuan qi. What Town Hall rushing does to a dude. Looking on, Gu Qian realizes that his fellow 4th-tier refiner is completely exhausted, but refuses to give up because of pride, since the bet will be lost if nothing is done. He steps in to take over and forces Lu Haochu aside. While Xinzi tries to wrap his head around the fact that Yu Xiao was really taking on 3 of them by himself, Gu Qian plops up countless crimson balloons from the lake below and envelops the primordial stone with them. This culminates in the 8-fold heart refining technique, a unique and powerful stone refining skill that Gu Qian has perfected for decades, to the point that even Bai Li Gongjin admits his inferiority to him in comprehending this particular technique. Just then, Yuan Hao announces that Yu Xiao's primordial stone has reached the middle grade as well. Bai Li Gongjin is barely able to believe his eyes and declares the resulting product to be a masterpiece, having felt no loss of spiritual energy in it whatsoever during the refining process. However, he is curious about what method Yun Xiao will use next, considering the stone's quality will barely improve using the 12 forms of falling snow. Suddenly, the reincarnated soul takes a deep breath, summoning his signature Buddha-like glowing arms to refine the primordial stones. Witnessing the technique's majestic aura and rapid fluctuations in its frequency that demonstrate Yun Xiao's profound comprehension, Yuan Hao is left in utter awe. Even Xin Pi, who doesn't understand the refining process much, is able to tell that his craftsmanship is greater than that of Gu Qian by more than one level. Bursting into a cold sweat, Duan Yue explains Yun Xiao's technique as the convergence of martial and artistic paths, the ultimate point of space and the pinnacle of time. Bai Li Gongjin starts trembling and mutters, This is. Barely managing to string together his words, the 6th-tier refiner jumps up in childlike joy, revealing that Yun Xiao is using the legendary Heavenly Phantom Scripture technique. Turns out, Bai Li Gongjin first encountered the technique when he was a mere 4th-tier Lord-class refiner, cultivating with his master at the deity Transformation Sea. At the time, the refiner headquarters had only granted the title of Honored Elder to 2 individuals in existence. One day, Bai Li Gongjin's master informed him and his other disciples that the Alchemist Association's headquarters had gained another Honored Elder, who would be giving them a lecture the next day on the Heavenly Phantom Scripture technique. Of course, everyone excitedly attended. Bai Li Gongjin went a step further to master the technique and sneaked into the sleeping chambers of this Honored Elder, Gu Feiyang, only to find him seated motionless, seemingly in deep meditation. Unable to contain his excitement, the young refiner knelt down, begging the Honored Elder to teach him the Heavenly Phantom Scripture technique. Deeply invested in the story, Duan Yue questions what happened next, wondering if Gu Feiyang said anything. Bai Li Gongjin shakes his head, having kept kneeling in silence until the break of dawn. However, With the rooster's crows, he realized that the honored elder imparted something of even more importance to him. Yuan Hao is confused, not understanding how a profound night of silence managed to accomplish such a thing. Like my English teacher who always overanalyzed an author's intentions, Bai Li Gongjin thought that Gu Feiyang wanted to convey to him that the path of alchemy is boundless. However, their lives are finite. Despite this, when one pursues this path steadfastly, eventually, success will come like a rooster's crow at dawn. Everyone is left in awe at the revelation, and Yuan Hao declares Gu Feiyang to be an extraordinary figure. Hearing the story, Yun Xiao remembers something like that taking place, albeit not in the way that it was described. What actually happened on that day was, after the lecture, a mischievous friend invited Gu Feiyang to see a breathtaking sight. One thing led to another, and they ended up spying on the Red Lotus martial Empress Li Yun Xiao while she was bathing. While retreating, Gu Feiyang was stunned by her peerless figure and hesitated, falling behind his mischievous friend. At that moment, Li Yun Xiao locked onto him with her universal detect and gave chase. In a panic, the 9th-tier refiner retreated to his chambers and pretended to be in deep meditation. Just as the furious Red Lotus martial Empress was about to confirm whether he was faking it or not, a clueless Bai Li Gongjin suddenly knelt before him. Of course, Gu Feiyang only saw him as an obsessed young man who yearned to learn the heavenly phantom scripture technique and paid little attention to his words. After all, he had better things to do at the time, like staying still, since Li Yun Xiao was secretly observing him. In the end, Bai Li Gongjin's remarkable perseverance to keep Milan all night caused her to grow impatient and eventually leave. Shortly after, the young man suddenly thanked Gu Feiyang and excitedly ran away, leaving him utterly confused. Now, the reincarnated soul finally realizes what took place that day. A clueless disciple's simple misunderstanding saved his life. As fate would have it, that disciple was Bai Li Gongjin all along, who saved Yun Xiao from Yu Wei Ji Yu Lin. An old acquaintance misinterpreted his intentions and ended up succeeding because of it. This thought causes the reincarnated soul to almost lose focus on his heavenly phantom scripture technique. This is more motivational than anything Andrew Tate has ever said. Meanwhile, the 6th-tier refiner reminisces about his old master, who told him that the path of alchemy will flourish through Gu Feiyang in the future. Inspired by these events, Bai Li Gongjin strived for the pinnacle of art without rest, becoming someone respected by all. Originally, the 6th-tier refiner captured Yun Xiao for the 3 Great Seals. However, he now knows that the boy is in possession of the heavenly phantom scripture technique, something he has been dreaming of for all his life. Of course, since facing 3 4th-tier refiners isn't possible even with this technique, Bai Li Gongjin plans to get on Yun Xiao's good side by bribing him when he loses. Looking on, Xinzi can't believe that the reincarnated soul somehow possesses a technique of such remarkable origin. As the battle progresses, Yuan Hao shares the sentiment, declaring the extraordinary heavenly phantom scripture technique to be an unfair advantage. Jumping to Yun Xiao's defense, Duan Yue reprimands Yuan Hao for implying such a thing, when it's a 3 versus 1 bout, making him apologize for misspeaking. Hu's aura points just went up by 10,000. Right then, Guxian Qian unleashes the 2nd stage of his 8-fold heart-refining technique, persistence of refining. With this, he advances his team's primordial stone to the high tier. Suddenly, Yun Xiao shouts out refinement, preparing to upgrade his primordial stone as well. Moments later, it gets enveloped with his glowing aura and advances to the high tier. Bai Li Gongjin is left in awe at the sight, unable to believe that a 15-year-old possesses the necessary control to upgrade a raw primordial stone to a high tier one, with nothing but his own strength. Just then, Xinzi steps in to take over for his team. Wanting to win no matter what it takes, Guxian Qian gladly leaves it up to him. Xinzi understands where he's coming from too, as just winning is nothing to be proud of anymore. However, losing would utterly humiliate them. Reaching the point of no return in the bet, Xinzi gets ready to use his ultimate technique. Submerging the high-tier primordial stone, he touches the surface of the water below, causing it to swirl around rapidly. And so, Xinzi unleashes the Seascape Moonrise technique. Bai Li Gongjin and Yuan Hao can't believe this, as even though it's the Xin family's ultimate technique, the role it would play in advancing the primordial stone to the highest tier is minimal. Since only strong spirit power can accomplish this feat, the geezers recognized that Xinzi primordial stone would reach the pseudo-highest tier at max. This worries Duan Yue, as Yun Xiao seems to be close to his limit too, meaning the battle will end in a draw. Although Bai Li Gongjin hopes that it's a draw as well, he reveals it to be unlikely, since primordial stones have different levels even in the high tier. Yuan Hao agrees, declaring that Yun Xiao's eventual defeat will be an honorable one. Blue never gets tired of being wrong. Huh. Right then, the reincarnated soul chimes in to deny the notion that he is losing. Yun Xiao then reminds Yuan Hao of the time they met in Tiandang Mountains a few months ago. The latter thought the former would lose his pill-refining battle with Sun Zhongzong, only for him to win. Vowing to repeat history, Yun Xiao unleashes his godly evolution technique, Spirit Possession. Witnessing the symbols of the ancient divine scriptures envelop the bay, Bai Li Gongjin screams out, questioning just who he really is. The three seals and the heavenly phantom scripture technique already had the 6th tier refiner shaken, but seeing a teenager use the ancient scripture in front of him has the poor guy questioning if anything he believes in is even real anymore. Having previously thought that no one would recognize the symbols, Yun Xiao realizes his oopsie upon remembering that Bai Li Gongjin is the disciple of Dan Yan, someone who used to specialize in ancient scriptures. Regardless, he doesn't have any other choice. Just like that, the refining battle proceeds. Xinzi and Yun Xiao both scream out, almost as if they were planning on going Super Saiyan. Soon, the two refiners reach their limit. Yuan Hao announces that both primordial stones stopped evolving just before the highest tier, questioning if it's a draw. Bai Li Gongjin corrects him, revealing that even though both stones are quasi-highest tier, the quality of Yun Xiao's primordial stone was better preserved during the refining process, making him the winner. Lu Haochu and Ge Xian grit their teeth in anger, while Duan Yue starts celebrating the boy's victory. Right then, Xinzi declares that the competition isn't over yet and pulls out a purple pill, making Yun Xiao panic. Witnessing Yun Xiao display such calmness, Bai Li Gongjin recognizes that he is no ordinary person. To the latter, the former seems like a natural king, casually accepting the adoration of his subjects. Even Bai Li Gongjin ends up bowing to his lord Yun Xiao, declaring him an otherworldly being, whose talent surpasses that of prime Gu Fei Yang. Just as Dan Yan called the 9th tier refiner the future of alchemy, Bai Li Gongjin grants that title to Yun Xiao, leaving Xin Pi speechless. After all, the Dusk Flame Empire's leading refiner treating a teenager as an equal is unheard of. The reincarnated soul doesn't seem interested in any of that though, only wanting to get his hands on the reward for the bet. Duan Yue quickly brings the Heaven's Flame battle flag and the primordial stones to Yun Xiao, pleasing him greatly. Walking off happily, the boy shows no semblance of a refiner's dignity and greedily instructs the adults to call him if there are any similar competitions in the future, vowing to participate in all of them. Suddenly, every refiner in the room swarms Yun Xiao, wanting him to stay for a few days so they can study alchemy together. If my girlfriend isn't this romantic, I don't want her. The boy has no problem with this arrangement, as long as they pay him by the hour, of course. To please Yun Xiao even further, Bai Li Gongjin officially announces his promotion to a 5th tier refiner, something no one present disagrees with. Suddenly, Xin Pi calls on Bai Li Gongjin and Yun Xiao, wanting to discuss something with them. He insists that the boy can't stay in the association for long, enraging the refiners, not caring about anything other than alchemy. The lunatics are willing to let even the Dusk Flame Empire collapse if Yun Xiao gets to stay with them. Regardless, Xin Pi continues, revealing that the allocation of slots for Mount Meru has been announced. With a total of 2,000 free places left, the major forces and the 3 empires have collectively decided to host a test, allowing only those noble families and sects who haven't been allocated any slots to compete. Since Martial Flame City hasn't been given any slots, Yun Xiao's strength will be key in acquiring them for the Dusk Flame Empire. Hearing this, Bai Li Gongjin screams out, refusing to let a rare genius like Yun Xiao risk his life in such a dangerous test. However, the boy assures him that it's no problem. He wants to participate in the test on the Dusk Flame Empire's behalf, though only if they let him distribute the obtained slots. Understanding that obtaining even hundreds of slots won't be a problem with Yun Xiao's strength, Xin Pi objects to giving them all to Martial Flame City, and worries about fair distribution. The reincarnated soul tells him not to worry, as his city won't be keeping a single slot. Instead, he will hold an auction to sell off all the slots for primordial stones. While everyone is baffled by his greed, Yun Xiao makes an excuse about how the slots will be wasted on the useless folk of Martial Flame City, not letting anything slip about his plan with the World God Monument. With the terms settled, Xin Pi informs Yun Xiao that the competition will take place at Qionghua Island in a week. The boy is unaware of this location, getting filled in by Duan Yue. Turns out, at the border of the southern region's three empires, the vast Clearheart Lake is home to 1,000 islands, the biggest of which is Qionghua Island. Currently, major forces have occupied it to make preparations for a fair competition. After getting all the details, Yun Xiao starts heading off. Bai Li Gongjin shouts at him to stop, only to get hit with a rate list for his lessons. For the Floating Life, Dusted World, and Divine Earth seals, the reincarnated soul will charge 200, 500, and 800 million middle-tier primordial stones respectively. The Heavenly Phantom Scripture technique will cost 1 billion middle-tier primordial stones, while the World God Monument is a priceless treasure that is not for sale no matter what. Of course, this is after the friends and family discount, leaving everyone in despair. Meanwhile, inside the World God Monument, the poor Congo Divine Tree whimpers and cries after getting scanned by Yun Xiao. Despite their agreement, the poor thing got more than half of his spirit power drained by the heartless dude. As Yun Xiao heads off, Bai Li Gongjin and the other refiners start going crazy over the thought of primordial stones. The 6th-tier refiner orders everyone to sell all the association's alchemical products, wanting to acquire 25 million high-tier primordial as soon as possible. He goes a step further, declaring the Alchemist Association temporarily open to all outside refiners for commissions. Yuan Hao and the 4th-tier refiners rush to fulfill his wishes, while Xin Pi silently sneaks away, feeling his sanity slipping away with each moment he spends with them. Meanwhile, Yun Xiao arrives at the World God Monument's entrance at the Supreme High Palace, where all the mountains have been drained of their soul qi. As the boy starts having intrusive thoughts about stealing again, Duan Yue questions if he really intends to sell the legendary 3 Great Seals at such a low price, not knowing if he is being clever or foolish in doing so. Yun Xiao insists that he has no other choice, reiterating his urgent need for a massive amount of primordial stones. Moreover, not only is it the highest price the boy can set for them in the short run anyway, even selling them for it wouldn't be enough for the amount he needs. Duan Yue is utterly shocked, wondering how 2.5 billion high-tier primordial stones still aren't enough. He has a sneaking suspicion that Yun Xiao isn't looking for them just for cultivation purposes anymore, being spot on for once. We are seeing the dude's IQ go up in real time. The reincarnated soul tells Duan Yue to follow him to a good place, only to arrive in a silent, cold void. Sneezing his guts out, the geezer wonders if they are still inside the World God Monument, only to get countered with a question. Yun Xiao asks him if he knows the current strongest refiner in the world. Landing on the lifeless plane, Duan Yue remarks that it's Lu Kongzi, the head of the Alchemist Association headquarters. Turns out, he is wrong. Lu Kongzi has his position not because he is the strongest, but because of his excellent interpersonal skills and knowing how to mediate the superpowers. In fact, the current strongest refiner in the world isn't even at the deity transformation sea. Rather, they are in the divine capital of the holy region, considered the supreme land of martial prowess. The entire world obeys without question when they issue an order. Just as Duan Yue tries to wrap his head around Yun Xiao, knowing such a hidden secret, he reveals that not even the current strongest refiner can refine the World God Monument, declaring it a godly object that defies the heavens. Not only is it above the transcendental artifact, Noah's Ark, by several grades, but artifacts of the same caliber only exist in Tiandang Wu's ancient legends. No one thought those myths were true, for good reason too. However, as a 9th-tier refiner is incapable of refining the World God Monument, it can only mean that its original master was an entity of the 10 Ultimate Realm. Duan Yue's eyes pop wide open upon hearing this, considering that is the end goal of all martial arts. Pulling out the World God Monument's physical form, Yun Xiao reveals that he has eventually been gaining a deeper understanding of it. This has led him to guess a few things, such as the fact that the World God Monument should have been filled with abundant yuan qi and its own soul space. Although he doesn't know what happened to it, Yun Xiao now understands a shocking reality. The World God Monument, in its current form, is actually just a dead stone. Duan Yue is left in disbelief as the thought of its full capabilities goes beyond his wildest imagination. Yun Xiao continues, revealing that the World God Monument will come back to life once enough soul chi is accumulated. When that happens, the space inside it will expand infinitely, forming its own world. Of course, this is possible only if the World God Monument is activated by opening the four great domains of earth, water, fire, and wind. The four nations lived together in harmony until the Fire Nation attacked. Wait, wrong show. All of these are supported by currently dormant ancient formations, whose locations Yun Xiao has gradually started to sense, after cultivating the godly realm technique. To activate them, a large amount of soul chi is needed, which is exactly the grand goal he has been working towards. By acquiring so many primordial stones, Yun Xiao proceeds to make another shocking revelation, informing Duan Yue that they currently stand in the domain of fire. The old man finds it hard to believe, considering his beard is about to freeze off. Telling Duan Yue to stop blabbering, Yun Xiao reminds him that the domain's ancient formation hasn't been activated yet. Following this, he unleashes the Phoenix True Fire, godly evolution technique with the divine arts fusion. Merging with the ancient scripture, the blue flames carry it to the ground. The divine symbol imprints itself into the floor and erupts with a golden glow, sending wild shockwaves in every direction. Moments later, the entire scenery changes, as a crimson light shines from the ancient scripture. Sent flying from the earlier shockwaves, Duan Yue lands face first onto the floor, finding himself on hard rock. Right then, the ancient scripture explodes like a volcano. Sizzling lava bursts forth with great force and comes back down like fireworks, surrounding the divine symbol. Yun Xiao looks on from the sky as the ancient fire domain formation fully activates, and so, the domain of fire opens. Suffering from yet another unbelievable occurrence, Duan Yue jumps around everywhere, failing to protect his rear end from getting burned by the lava. Jiat. Suddenly, a nourishing sensation overcomes him as his green lotus flames start to evolve under the fire domain. Duan Yue quickly rushes to Yun Xiao, inquiring about the progress. He is informed that even though the formation has been activated, it is extremely unstable and will dry up without a continuous supply of soul chi. So, the reincarnated soul plans to add another formation to it for stabilization purposes. With a snap of his finger, Yun Xiao summons everyone in the World God Monument to the fire domain, informing them of their current situation. Due to its scarcity, he will temporarily build a sea of soul chi, where they stand in order to concentrate the majority of it there. While the martial artists take in the experience of flying for the first time, Yun Xiao reveals that he needs them to maintain a large formation, one that requires 3,600 people. Before that, though, the reincarnated soul summons all the primordial stones and soul chi he has, for his people to enjoy their heart's content. With the Heaven's Flame Battle flag in hand, Yun Xiao leads the exhilarating celebration as people start breaking through left and right. In Lu Haochu's hands, the Heaven's Flame Battle flag only had value if it were researched. However, Yun Xiao recognizes its true purpose as a fire attribute artifact most suitable for activating the fire domain formation. Modifying the damaged flag with the ancient scripture, he plants it into the volcanic ground. A huge eruption follows, and a massive formation appears in the sky. Yun Xiao then prepares to transmit the technique for his followers to use the Heaven's Flame Battle flag, requiring the combined power of 3,600 people to do so, due to their insufficient cultivation. The reincarnated soul instructs everyone not to dodge what comes next, assuring them that it won't hurt. With this, countless fiery tentacles emerge from the fire domain formation, attaching to the foreheads of everyone present. The transmission proceeds with ease as the technique directly seeps into them. And so, Yun Xiao announces that it's time for everyone to practice together. Soon after, he accumulates enough soul chi and breaks through to become a 5-star martial lord. Not surprised by his shenanigans anymore, Duan Yue just looks at him like a sad puppy. Yun Xiao then informs him of an interesting fact, something he is really looking forward to. Turns out, he can directly draw upon the Heaven's Flame Battle flag's power, even if he is outside. Containing his intrigue, Duan Yue inquires about their next course of action. As a week has passed, Yun Xiao announces that they will head for Qionghua Island now. Meanwhile, at Clear Heart Lake, Mount Meru's imminent opening has resulted in almost all of the southern region's extraordinary young talents gathering on its banks, awaiting the brutal competition that lies ahead. On one of the ships there, two friends discuss the possibility of facing martial grandmasters, wondering if becoming that strong while being less than 50 years old is even possible. This leads to them talking about the rumor, which said that a 15-year-old kid killed a martial grandmaster, with a single wave of his hand, during a battle in High Sun City's dark gold arena. Right then, a crazed drunken man boasting a long braid interrupts the two friends, expressing interest in their story and the person they just mentioned. This is none other than Luo Qingyun, who belongs to the Heaven-Sent Empire. Threatened by his presence, the two friends fill him in on all the details they know, brows folded quicker than I would in front of Sydney Sweeney. Elsewhere, the Heaven-Sent Empire's royalty gathers to witness the upcoming competition, discussing the same rumor. The calm and collected Chuyu believes that the 15-year-old might have a powerful technique that caught the martial grandmaster by surprise to kill him, but the giant Huo's son dismisses it. Both of them pile on Xin Pi, insisting that he tell them the whole story, since he was present there that day. Xin Pi tells them that the young man only traded blows with the martial grandmaster, keeping out most of the details. He gatekeeps like this not only to save face, but to also hide Yun Xiao's true strength, ensuring that the surprise factor remains intact when the competition begins. At the same time, the martial emperor worries about the few exceptionally powerful individuals who have been sent from the other empire. Meanwhile, Yun Xiao hasn't arrived even though it's almost time. Xin Pi quickly changes the topic, expressing amazement at the Heaven-Sent Empire's powerful younger generation. Chuyu is impressed by the Wood Dawn Empire's experts, but Huo's son tells him to stop pretending, considering the Heaven-Sent Empire's Luo Qingyun is at least a 3-star martial grandmaster. After a bit of banter and a little trolling, the discussion comes back to the 15-year-old who traded blows with a martial grandmaster. Chuyu inquires about his name and if he is present in the people below, finally revealing his name to be Li Yun Xiao. Xin Pi informs them that he hasn't arrived yet. The martial emperor slyly undermines the boy, remarking that he might have gotten scared after seeing so many strong opponents. Of course, Chuyu and Huo's son don't buy it. Elsewhere, Yun Xiao gets ambushed by Yue Jiulin. Pulling out his sock puppet, the former tries to threaten the latter by reminding him that he is helping the Dusk Flame Empire acquire spots for Mount Meru. Dude would have made a killer career as a ventriloquist. He uses Xin Pi as a bargaining tool, but Yue Jiulin doesn't back off. The 5-star martial emperor demands that Yun Xiao hands over his demon beast and shining frost machete, promising to let him leave unharmed afterward. With a sinister smirk, the boy drops the sock puppet and questions if he is being serious. In response, Yue Jiulin expresses hope that Yun Xiao is smart enough to cooperate, considering Bai Li Gongjin won't show up again, to help him from his clutches. Suddenly, the reincarnated soul starts to panic, pointing into the distance. He screams out at the leader of the Heaven Gathering sect, Qi Feng, showing up out of nowhere. Terrified, Yue Jiulin instantly looks back, only to realize that he has fallen for Yun Xiao's trickery. The 5-star martial emperor furiously turns back toward the reincarnated soul, refusing to let him escape with such a cheap tactic. Much to his dismay, Yun Xiao isn't running away at all, but instead charging right at him. Yue Jiulin instantly closes his eyes to activate the soul awareness seal to protect himself from any mental attacks, thinking that it is the only danger he faces. Confident that nothing will harm him anymore, the 5-star martial emperor reopens his eyes, only to find himself below the gigantic fire domain formation, Genjutsu Mother Trucker. As Yue Jiulin cluelessly wonders if he is inside an illusion, a whip of fire emerges from the formation to grab his feet. Right then, Yun Xiao's projection appears before him, surrounded by flames. Revealing that this isn't an illusion, he remarks that it doesn't matter where they are anymore. Following these threatening words, several more whips of fire erupt from the formation to stop Yue Jiulin from moving. Utterly confused, the 5-star martial emperor questions how an illusion is working. When there's such a huge gap in strength between them, Yun Xiao simply responds with a smile, forming a flaming cocoon to trap him inside. Marveling at the rare opportunity to practice offensive formations on a 5-star martial emperor, he addresses everyone in the World God Monument, summoning them to practice together with him. 3,600 people appear before Yue Jiulin, as Yun Xiao threatens his life by forcefully making him his sparring partner. Riding his Tiger King battleship, Yun Xiao celebrates his luck, which allowed him to trap Yue Jiulin inside the World God Monument when he was off guard, considering a head-on fight would have resulted in his defeat. Soon, the reincarnated soul arrives at the gathering, making Xin Pi breathe a sigh of relief. However, as no one is allowed to drive a floating battleship inside Qionghua Island, people start complaining about Yun Xiao, blatantly breaking rules that everyone has to follow. Unimpressed by the arrogant young man's grand display, Qiyu signals her guard to move out, all the while Huo's son wonders how Yun Xiao looks unscathed after having a showdown with the martial Grand Master. Anyway, the guard reprimands the boy for disrespectfully sitting in a floating battleship on land, as sacred as Clear Heart Lake, instead of walking like everyone else, and shouts at him to get down. Xin questions Qiyu's intentions in pulling this stunt, getting assured that it's just to keep an eye on a dangerous young man risking Clear Heart Lake's safety. Huo's son laughs at this statement, considering this guard is a 9-star martial king. However, Qiyu insists that he is just overthinking, since someone who has faced a martial grandmaster before wouldn't fear a martial king. Qiyu snarks at Xin, wanting his opinion on the matter. With a fierce gaze, the martial emperor declares that he isn't worried about Yun Xiao, but rather about him going wild and taking the guard's life. Yet another W Glazer joins the team. As Xin expected, the reincarnated soul instantly unleashes the 6 universes stargazing formation to take on the 9-star martial king's 5th-tier hammer, wanting to see which is tougher. Worried about the formation being one of Yun Xiao's powerful tricks, the guard tries to retreat. Of course, the boy has no intention of letting him flee so easily. Obsessed with letting his Tiger King battleship have a good time together with the 9-star martial king's hammer, Yun Xiao slams him with a 10,000-fold gravity formation. Getting crushed under the immense pressure, the guard begs the reincarnated soul to stop. The latter reminds the former that he was the one who was begging him to get down, so this is just his wish being fulfilled. With these words, Yun Xiao slams the 6 universes stargazing formation on the guard. Unable to exert any strength with his meridians sealed, the 9-star martial king begs his master Qiyu to save him. Looking on, Xin bursts out into a cold sweat, wondering why Yun Xiao always has to cause him such trouble. Right then, the reincarnated soul rides out of the Tiger King battleship on his floating water ball and pushes the 6 universes stargazing formation even further. Once again, the guard is forced to beg to be saved. This time, Qiyu, Xin and Huo's son jump in, combining their strengths to activate the 3 powers shield formation. With this, the impact of the Tiger King battleship's self-destruction is contained, albeit barely. Of course, it's too late for the 9-star martial king, who perishes in the attack. R.I.P. Bozo. Releasing the 3 powers shield formation, Xin stands staring at the consequent nothingness, recognizing Xiao's ruthless ways. To make things worse, the latter casually joins the former at his side and thanks him for wrapping things off. In classic Yun Xiao fashion, he refers to Xin as uncle to get him out of trouble if anything goes wrong. While the martial emperor questions the boy's methods, Qiyu starts shouting at him. He reprimands Yun Xiao for his ruthless and reckless actions, only to get presented with immaculate arguments on why he did no such thing. Of course, Yun Xiao doesn't forget to top it off with a signature snarky remark. Enraged by mere words, Qiyu unleashes a Qi beam to end his life once and for all. Xin intervenes, flicking away the attack with ease. With a threatening gaze, he compliments Qiyu for improving his arc-light finger beam and proposes that they have another friendly match. The tension between them sends waves of panic throughout the martial artists in the area, prompting Huo's son to intervene and remind them that they are holding up the competition. Xin agrees with him, infuriating Qiyu even further. He menacingly wishes Yun Xiao good luck, hoping that he can make it out of Qionghua Island alive. Feeling uncomfortable with the way Qiyu said those words, the reincarnated soul questions if he ate crap as breakfast, impressing Huo's son with his audacity. Once again defending Yun Xiao, Xin playfully yet intimidatingly makes a proclamation for anyone who is trying to cause trouble behind the scenes. All look at Uncle growing a soft spot. This alerts Huo's son, who calms down the martial emperor and tries to start the competition ASAP. Qiyu is more affected by this declaration though, as Zhou Changfa personally came to him a few days ago. Presenting a tempting deal, the Zhou family's supreme elder sought to use the Heaven-Sent Empire to eliminate Yun Xiao from the competition. To that end, he provided Qiyu with comprehensive details and information about the boy, which were all confirmed to be true after further investigation. The battle in the Dark Gold Arena, where Yun Xiao bested a martial Grand Master, particularly stood out to Qiyu. There was no faking it either, considering tens of thousands of people watched him do it. With all that in mind, Qiyu hopes that the foreign disciple Luo Qingyun will deal with the reincarnated soul. Despite not knowing his true identity, the former understands that the latter's status as a 3-star martial Grand Master doesn't do justice to his combat strength. Yu grins, believing that it would spell doom for Yun Xiao if Luo Qingyun were to take action. Right then, Huo's son leaps into the air, shouting at everyone to calm down. Without any further delay, he shows them a golden crystal and reveals the details of the competition. A total of 10,000 participants will compete over 2,000 places, with a time limit of 3 days. Each slot to enter Mount Meru is represented by the crystal Huo's son holds in his hands, and the participants are allowed to gather as many as they can find. To that end, they are allowed to use any means necessary, except malicious killing. Fortunately, rules are meant to be broken. Anyway, to ensure that this rule is enforced, experts from the Vanishing Valley, the Heaven Gathering Sect, and the Thousand Crane Pavilion will monitor everyone from within the island. Moreover, a participant is allowed to shout "I surrender" if they are in a life-threatening situation, upon which the experts will rescue them from Qionghua Island. Of course, anyone who does that will forfeit the crystals they have collected up till that point. In case all the crystals aren't found within the 3 days, the undiscovered ones will be dropped from a sky formation, at which point it will be every man for himself and survival of the fittest. With all the rules completely cleared up, Huo's son brings out some marked stones. He uses them to form a short-distance teleportation gate, capable of transporting the competitors directly to Qionghua Island. Lastly, since the teleportation will be random, each person will get a different landing point, forcing them to find their allies on their own. And so, everyone starts entering the portal. As Yun Xiao and Luo Qingyun stand in front of a portal, a mysterious man walks past them, tipping his hat on the way. After he leaves, only the 2 young men remain. Luo Qingyun respectfully tells Yun Xiao to go ahead, an offer he gratefully accepts. Stepping foot into the blue vortex, the reincarnated soul finds himself in the middle of a forest on Qionghua Island. He instantly uses his universal detect to investigate the situation, only to end up getting stalked by a formation set up particularly to hinder universal detect. Of course, the boy could forcefully break through it if he wanted to with the godly evolution technique. However, not wanting to cause a commotion, Yun Xiao decides against it in the end in favor of testing his luck. Elsewhere, the man with the hat from earlier counts his blessings, having stumbled onto a crystal right after entering Qionghua Island. Turns out, he's a 2-star martial grandmaster named Lung Shuan, belonging to the Heavenly Tremor sect of the Wood Dawn Empire. Suddenly, clouds of smoke erupt around Lung Shuan, as 2 brothers attempt to jump in for his crystal. Nah, we gotta increase the top 10 moments before disaster list to top 20 at this point. Despite all their trash talk, the 2-star martial grandmaster gives the brothers a chance to go away for now and collect some crystals, promising to come back for them then. However, they refuse to accept his generous offer and continue disrespecting him, all the while singing their own praises. Hiding in the clouds of smoke, the senior brother decides to attack first, greedily wanting to join in on the fun and torture their prey. The junior brother quickly leaps out of the smoke as well. Much to his dismay, what awaits him isn't Lung Shuan, but rather his senior brother's empty clothes. Don't worry. These words echo through the man's ears as the 2-star martial grandmaster appears behind him with his umbrella, announcing that the man's brother is waiting for him down there. Lung Shuan mocks the two for being mere weaklings inexperienced in real combat. He then sticks his umbrella into the attacker's head, ignoring both his pleas for mercy and surrender. Telling him to improve his insight in the next life, Lung Shuan drains the man of his energy. Right then, one of the experts appears, reminding the 2-star martial grandmaster that malicious killing is prohibited. Formally introducing himself, Lung Shuan insists that he only acted in self-defense, questioning if that still counts as malicious killing. Impressed by his gusty response, the expert lets him off with a warning and disappears. Grinning at his victory, Lung Shuan opens a map using a Shuan artifact to decide his next target. He walks off, vowing to get at least half of the 2,000 crystals in the coming 3 days. Spare some for the rest, you greedy pig. Just like that, the first day quickly passes. Since most people remain cautious, there were no casualties except the 2 killed by Lung Shuan. Sitting in the royal gathering, Huo's son observes the radar of competitors and crystals, wondering which sect's disciple has already collected 32 crystals after only 1 day. As this competitor quickly moves towards the next crystal, Huo's son concludes that they might have a way to detect crystals. Yu dismisses this notion, considering not only is there a formation in place that blocks universal detect, but the crystals themselves are made such that no one is able to detect them. Xin expects it to be Yun Xiao, as he was recognized by Bai Li Gongjin as a 5th-tier refiner. Concluding that the boy might have a way to detect crystals, the martial emperor feels relieved and thinks that they will be able to acquire over 100 slots with ease. The poor guy remains unaware that Yun Xiao is running around like a headless chicken, having collected a grand total of 0 crystals so far. Realizing that he isn't going anywhere, the reincarnated soul gives up on not trying to raise suspicion and sits down, unleashing his godly evolution technique to use his enhanced universal detect. Quickly finding a target, Yun Xiao moves out and lands on a rock. Talking to it, he tells the competitor hiding in it to come out. Where the boy gets ignored, he apologizes for his ruthlessness in advance and smashes the rock apart. Barely dodging the onslaught, a crying guy tries to swim away through the ground. Blood thinks he is Diglett, intercepting him with ease. Yun Xiao promises to let him go if he hands over his crystals. At first, the dude swears that he doesn't have any crystals, only to have his eyes pop out of his skull upon realizing that Li Yun Xiao stands before him. The reincarnated soul acts all humble, pretending like he doesn't know where his fame is coming from. Meanwhile, the guy just prays that he doesn't have to fight someone who can easily defeat a martial grandmaster and begs to be spared. The underground idiot insists that he doesn't have any crystals on him and is only hiding in the ground to cultivate, but Yun Xiao doesn't fall for his tricks at all. In the end, the slightest threat makes the dude fold and give up his crystal. Being the kind soul that he is, the reincarnated soul even lets the pathetic guy keep his life on account of him being a disciple of the Dusk Flame Empire. Afterward, Yun Xiao closely observes the crystal's peculiar yet masterfully crafted structure, concluding that it came from the deity Transformation Sea. Wanting to understand the purpose of the seal on its top, the boy dismantles the slot crystal. As soon as the glowing crystal shatters, an ominous energy starts flowing from it in all directions. A sinister feeling overcomes Yun Xiao, exactly the same as what he felt in the memory of the true soul Phoenix. Understanding that he must retain a trace of it, the reincarnated soul activates his godly evolution technique to contain the energy. Suddenly, an eerie sensation seeps down Yun Xiao's entire existence, forcing him to instantly seal the creepy energy in a jar. Somehow, the mysterious force directly penetrated his consciousness and would have made him go crazy if not for his strong spirit power. Wondering why such a thing even exists, Yun Xiao starts walking off, only to get bombarded with a band dropping some bars. At first, the lead singer expresses their prowess in a bouncy verse and threatens the boy to hand over his crystals. However, the realization that he's trying to go up against Li Yun Xiao throws him off his entire rhythm. Uncle Snoot D.O.G.G would be disappointed in you, nephew. Talking normally, the rapper tells the 5 members of his group to run in different directions. Already being able to distinguish the aura of the crystals with his universal detect, Yun Xiao recognizes that only the middle-aged man has 4 crystals, while the others have nothing. So he chases him alone. This leaves the rapper utterly shocked, making him wonder if the reincarnated soul is somehow cheating. Right then, someone hiding in the woods shoots an azure beam of energy at the man. Barely managing to avoid the attack, he inquires the identity of the attacker. 3 almost identical blonde triplets emerge from the shadows, referring to the rapper as Heek Sin from the Dusk Flame Empire's Blazing Phoenix residence. Mocking him for running around like a scared dog, they question if he has any crystals on him. This got to be racially motivated. Realizing that he is caught between a rock and a hard place, Heek Sin starts shouting for Yun Xiao, promising to give him 3 out of the 4 crystals if he saves his life. The rapper smartly threatens to surrender if the city lord doesn't help him, ensuring that no one present gets any of his 4 crystals. Looking around for the person Heek Sin is calling, the triplets offer to let him leave safely if he gives them 3 of the 4 crystals. However, the rapper blatantly announces that he isn't scared of pushovers like them when Yun Xiao is on his tail. As one of the triplets charges at him, Heek Sin starts running, all the while utterly roasting him with his raps. The blonde guy soon manages to catch up, only to get blasted in the face by a kick from Yun Xiao, who has agreed to Heek Sin's terms. Unaware of the 5-star martial lord's game, the oldest of the triplets seeks revenge for his brother's demise. Trash-talking Yun Xiao, the blonde dude unleashes a wild bolt of lightning, intending to kill both him and Heek Sin. While the rapper warns him of the enemy's power, the reincarnated soul extends his palm. 5 different colors of chi appear on each of his fingers, taking the form of whips, swirling around like a flexible rainbow. Yun Xiao's energy not only deflects the blonde guy's attack, but also absorbs it. Dude just making attacks up at this point. With this, a rainbow-colored whip of lightning charges towards the eldest triplet, resulting in a massive explosion. Towering over the enemy, Yun Xiao recognizes his might as a peak 9-star martial king, despite it not being strong enough to beat him. Feeling generous today, the reincarnated soul promises to let the triplets leave with their lives if they hand over their 4 crystals. The only brother who didn't get beaten up by Yun Xiao's protests, blatantly disrespecting him. However, the eldest sibling realizes their situation and fiercely orders his younger brother to hand over all the crystals. With this, the triplets run away. Scared by this demonstration, He Xin instantly bows and thanks Yun Xiao for his help, receiving no response. As he looks up, the reincarnated soul has vanished, somehow taking the crystals off him without his knowledge. Meanwhile, at the royal gathering, Huo-sun notes that someone has already collected 200 crystals and shows no signs of stopping. On the other hand, the second most is at just 40. Xu Yu and Xin Pi closely look on, wondering if it's Luo Qingyun or Li Yun Xiao. At nighttime, the reincarnated soul sits down to meditate. Moments later, he orders everyone lurking in the shadows to stop watching and just come out to get things over with, since there are various forces hiding all around. No one comes out thinking that Yun Xiao isn't talking about them. So, he announces where everyone is, how many people they are clustered up as, and what they are currently doing. Soon, 20 people surround Yun Xiao, questioning how he detected them with Universal Detect being blocked on the island. Remarking that it won't help them even if they know, the boy offers to let everyone go about their business if they hand over their crystals peacefully. However, the competitors aren't interested in his generosity and actually dare to enrage a foe who they know can easily defeat a martial grandmaster. And you just made the list. Leading the charge, the martial kings express their desire to see if Yun Xiao still remains arrogant when they make him submit to them. Unfazed, the reincarnated soul tells them to just stop talking and attack already. Every competitor unleashes their aura as he starts floating into the air with his glowing incandescent radiance, the Great Sun Wheel. With the power of the sun and moon at his back, Yun Xiao swiftly takes down all those who dare to stand against him. Despite being outnumbered, the reincarnated soul not only wins the battle in a dominating fashion, but also extorts all of his opponent's possessions, obtaining some good items. While he observes his loot, the other competitors kneel before him. Unable to protest, they simply thank their lord Yun Xiao for showing mercy. Putting everything away in his storage ring, he notes that collecting all the crystals on his own is likely impossible. Since there's still a day and a half left, Yun Xiao decides to give the martial grandmasters on the island some more time to collect the crystals, intending to snatch them away at the last moment. Meanwhile, in the royal gathering, Huo-sun announces that there's a huge problem. That is, someone has somehow managed to gather over 500 crystals. We're going to be flying around in creative mode. He suggests that this person be investigated to rule out cheating, but the other two aren't concerned about this. Xu Yu hopes that this mysterious competitor is Luo Qingyun, while Xin Pi puts his faith in Li Yun Xiao, reiterating that the crystals have been transported from the deity Transformation Sea. Xu Yu declares that they are practically immune to cheating means. Huo-sun finds his words suspicious, wondering if he knows how someone has acquired more than 500 crystals. Xu Yu tells him not to worry so much, considering the leaders of the 3 major forces are aware of the situation on the island. Happy to just spectate, he asks Xin Pi his view on the matter. Feeling that collecting the crystals depends on the youngster's luck, the martial emperor shares Xu Yu's opinion on just watching. Suddenly, Huo-sun directs their attention to the radar, which shows that the 2 disciples with 97 and 45 crystals respectively are about to encounter each other. Meanwhile, Yun Xiao walks through the island, having collected 45 crystals. With rain pouring down on him, he notes that defeating the martial grandmasters will guarantee his success. Right then, he notices the person with 97 crystals hiding behind the bushes nearby. As Yun Xiao is about to make a move, a chilling feeling overcomes him, and he quickly steps aside to avoid its cause. However, upon looking back, the reincarnated soul spots nothing. Suddenly, something pierces his hand. Still not seeing what it was, Yun Xiao starts jumping around. Moments later, he sees some leaves rustling on the ground, getting ripped apart. Du really has beef with Mother Nature. Realizing that the piercing force is the rain itself, Yun Xiao quickly activates his unyielding tyrant physique. Seeing this, Lung Shuan steps out from the shadows, complimenting the boy for instantly noticing the hidden attack. After all, anyone else would have died without ever realizing what hit them. Fortunately, Yun Xiao isn't just anyone. He also quickly analyzes the dark clouds in the sky, recognizing that they aren't real rain clouds. Rather, they are a water element rain formation. Lo and behold, the boy is right. With this, Lung Xuan is fully convinced that Yun Xiao's reputation isn't built upon any lies at all. Ignoring his glazing, the reincarnated soul notes that the rain formation is one of the 7 strongest elemental formations, having been passed down from ancient times. In fact, he even had a friend years ago who wanted to collect their methods and combine them into one. However, many of the diagrams were either incomplete or damaged. Since Lung Xuan and his allies don't have the necessary cultivation to set up such formations on themselves, it could only mean that they have the rain formation diagram on him. So, Yun Xiao vows to make Lung Xuan hand it over along with his crystals. The 2-star martial grandmaster can't believe the boy's arrogance, questioning if the old friend he is talking about is the royal throne martial sovereign Tung Guan. Lung Xuan is being rhetorical, not knowing that it's exactly who the reincarnated soul was talking about. Yun Xiao then reminds his opponent that no one can reach them within the rain formation, meaning no one will be there to save him in their upcoming life and death battle. Fortunately, he's feeling generous. The boy agrees to spare Lung Xuan's life if he hands over the crystals and the rain formation diagrams upon his loss. Nah, since when did my goat become so soft? Watched. Once again, Yun Xiao's arrogance surprises the 2-star martial grandmaster. After all, they will be battling within a formation that greatly enhances the power of those who practice water-type techniques, putting the reincarnated soul at a great disadvantage. Of course, Yun Xiao still doesn't lose even an ounce of his confidence, and so, the battle officially commences. Made invisible by the rain formation, Lung Xuan's martial king-level allies jump the reincarnated soul. Using his sense of hearing, he ducks under the first kick. In an instant, a second martial king appears, striking Yun Xiao from above. Although he manages to dodge, the boy is surprised that someone managed to get so close before his notice. Suddenly, another attacker charges toward him. Going on the defensive, Yun Xiao closes his eyes. With his other senses enhanced, he slams the 2 enemies into one another. However, defeating them means nothing, as the rain formation continuously rejuvenates them. Dashing around the water scythe flying toward him, Yun Xiao realizes that he needs to find the rain formation's core as soon as possible. After completely styling on another martial king, the reincarnated soul finds the core. Realizing that his rain formation is about to go down, Lung Xuan panics. Forced to partake in the battle, he slams Yun Xiao away with his umbrella. The 2-star martial grandmaster is impressed yet again, recognizing that he underestimated him. Lung Xuan's ally, who is maintaining the rain formation's core, worriedly questions if he exposed a weakness. Not being a complete hold to his allies, Lung Xuan tells him that it's not his fault. The 2-star martial grandmaster then shares a secret with Yun Xiao, revealing that he hates getting his clothes wet, despite his water-type techniques. That explains the yee-ass umbrella. Turns out, Yun Xiao is the only one who has been able to make Lung Xuan look so miserable in his own rain formation by forcing him to participate. Wondering if the praise is supposed to make him happy, the reincarnated soul returns the favor and compliments Lung Xuan's formation. After all, he would have been in trouble had it not been for his body techniques, which remain as strong as ever. The 2-star martial grandmaster is glad that Yun Xiao wasn't a disappointment, getting called out for thinking that his victory is assured. Hearing this, Lung Xuan becomes excited, declaring that it would have been boring if their game ended so easily. Finally, Yun Xiao fills his opponent in on a very crucial detail and reveals that he is skilled in water-based techniques as well. The boy summons a gigantic water dragon, leaving Lung Xuan in disbelief. However, Yun Xiao thinks that it isn't a big deal, considering all techniques are one, being just different transformations of the 5 elements. With the battlefield leveled, the reincarnated soul tries out the water dragon's roar technique. Thrilled to see just how strong Yun Xiao's move is, Lung Xuan responds by enveloping his umbrella in a swirling golden glow, making it look like a drill. The 2-star martial grandmaster charges toward the water dragon, blowing past it with ease. Just as he declares that his water techniques are nothing special, Yun Xiao unleashes his water elemental transformation, Crab Claws. Lung Xuan instantly responds with his own move, Water Elemental Transformation, Giant Clamshell, expanding it to overcome Yun Xiao's Crab Claws. Without wasting so much as a breath, The latter returns fire with water elemental transformation, sandpiper thrust, prompting the former to unleash his raging serpent, winning the exchange. Landing back on his beast, Lung Xuan admits that Yun Xiao's mastery of watery techniques is impressive. At the same time, he declares that a 3-star martial lord has no chance of winning. After all, he is up against Lung Xuan and his raging serpent, both possessing combat power equivalent to martial grandmasters. Even if Yun Xiao somehow wins against them, 4 martial kings are lurking around in the rain formation to ensure they can't get its diagram. Almost as if he were assured of his victory, Yun Xiao praises Lung Xuan for having a strong warrior's demeanor, expressing hope that he will go further on the path of martial arts after their battle. Baffled by the arrogance, the 2-star martial grandmaster questions if the boy thinks himself to be a guru of martial arts, and vows to teach him an unforgettable lesson. Who's gonna tell bro that he is literally the guru of all gurus? Doubting that Yun Xiao will be able to handle the attacks of 2 martial grandmaster level foes, Lung Xuan rides at him, striking with his umbrella. As the reincarnated soul steps out of the way, the raging serpent's tail attacks him from behind. Yun Xiao is sent flying, but Lung Xuan isn't done yet. Unleashing the raging serpent chaotic dance, the latter throws the former around like a rag doll. Lung Xuan then focuses all his energy on his umbrella and tells Lord Yun Xiao to watch closely, declaring that their little game will be over after one more strike. Actually feeling threatened by the attack, the reincarnated soul concludes that he shouldn't drag things out any longer, and finally makes his move. Right then, Lung Xuan's full power strike seemingly lands, causing a huge explosion. However, it actually ends up running into the World God Monument. Yun Xiao admits that the 2-star martial grandmaster is superior to him, as long as they're in the rain formation. In the same vein, he declares that Lung Xuan isn't invincible. With these words, Yun Xiao activates the Heaven's Flame Battle Formation, turning the rain formation into a sea of fire. Lung Xuan tries to retreat, but the flames catch up to him with ease. Worried about their senior brother, the 3 martial kings not maintaining the formation's core run to his aid. The 2-star martial grandmaster shouts at his idiotic allies, instructing them to gather their true chi to resist the flames. Moments later, Lung Xuan joins them, as they use all their power to maintain the water curtain call. That album do be fire though. However, the protective barrier quickly falls to the Heaven's Flame Battle Formation. A few moments back, outside the rain formation, 3 experts discuss the intense battle between Yun Xiao and Lung Xuan. The trio wonders how the reincarnated soul hasn't died yet, considering even they would be in great danger in his situation. Having observed Lung Xuan for a while, the 3 experts think that only Luo Qingyun, who has already collected over 600 crystals, stands a chance against Lung Xuan. Suddenly, a sea of flames right before their very eyes. Not only does it block their universal detect just like the rain formation, but its visibility is even worse. Meanwhile, Yun Xiao towers over Lung Xuan and his allies, all of whom are greatly wounded. Holding the Heaven's Flame Battle flag in his hands, he questions if the 2-star martial grandmaster still has strength for one more battle. Why? Mutters Lung Xuan, though not in response to Yun Xiao's query. He is wondering why the flames are retracting, considering they would have consumed him in a few more moments. Side note, bro has glorious hair. Lifting Lung Xuan's damaged hat from the ground, Yun Xiao notes that he must be dissatisfied with the loss. Promising to wait for him inside Mount Meru, the reincarnated soul throws the 2-star martial grandmaster's hat back to him. Touched by the gesture, Lung Xuan gracefully surrenders the rain formation diagram and all his crystals to Yun Xiao. Having gained respect for him, the reincarnated soul leaves his foe with 5 crystals, 1 each for him and his allies, hoping that Lung Xuan's martial arts will have progressed further. When they meet again in Mount Meru, Yun Xiao heads off. As the sea of flames dissipates, the 3 experts are confused to see both competitors still alive. Upon checking their radar to understand who won the battle, the trio is shocked to find out that over 100 crystals are leaving with Yun Xiao, while only 5 are left behind with Lung Xuan. While they try to wrap their head around what actually happened, something else on the radar puts them on alert. Lo and behold, Luo Qingyun is on the move, rapidly making his way toward Yun Xiao. You guys aren't ready for this? Gotta wait till next time to see it though.